Thank you, Rob, and welcome everyone. I was thinking about today is the Friday before another federal holiday, which because of my state in life, I wasn't paying too much attention to. Every day seems like the next sometimes. But holidays in general, as I looked a little bit about this, were intended oftentimes to disrupt the ordinary routine of life and give us an opportunity to do some of the things that Verna discussed with us last week, to pay attention to the world, to pay attention to ourselves and our energies, to reflect on what we're doing. And it's a little bit ironic that in 1971, the US Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which is what we have here. The idea was to give American workers a 3-day holiday so they could plan a little more. And I think for many people, that's probably something they like to have. What it doesn't do is that disruption in the same way that something that happening in the middle of the week or when you didn't expect it can sometimes make us think a little more differently. And for this holiday, Washington's birthday was established in 1885 on February 22nd, and Lincoln's, I don't remember the date of the finding of it, but it was for February 12th, but now we've got President's Day. So that's what we have. I don't know what anyone would be reflecting on about the presidents, but there we go. We got a day off, those of us who are employed. But the writer E.B. White makes a point I wanted to just reflect on very briefly here. He says, if it were merely challenging, that would be no problem, but I arise in the morning torn between a desire to improve or save the world and a desire to enjoy or savor the world. This makes it hard to plan the day. I'll put that quote in the chat for anyone who'd like to have it. But of course, the challenge is not a mere one, especially for those who spend every day trying to survive in a situation where they have no stable housing, and for anyone who is walking with them on that journey. So today we're going to have an opportunity in our breakouts to discuss what is of most passionate concern to us. And so look forward to doing that with you. And it's not really difficult to plan the day when you do this kind of work. There's always something to do around every corner. So welcome to our savoring of our world together. Let me just remind everyone who's here who may have, not for maybe forgotten, but just to remind about the way we do our work here together. We have on Zoom, we ask people to use the raise hand function. And if that's not possible for you, find some other way to get attention, but that's the appreciated way. And then to keep ourselves muted when we're not speaking, and to turn off our videos when we're doing other things so we're not distracting. We also use the chat as a way to interact with each other, so it's not disrespectful at all to the speakers. It's just seen as our way of making connections. So put your questions, especially if you're new and are not sure what has been going on here before. Sometimes a question isn't that easy to ask in the middle of another discussion. So put it in there and someone will respond. I'm confident of that. Also, we have norms around the way we interact with each other, and they're basically norms of respect, paying attention to our words, the power we may bring to a situation, making sure we encourage others to speak. So with that, I'd like to invite those of you who are new today, or maybe going to be speaking with us later today, to just introduce yourself and indicate if you're with a group or not, that's fine. And you can unmute and do that at this point if you are liking to.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name's Joanna, and I am very interested in helping people with homelessness. So I came across this Zoom meeting at the last minute this morning and was able to get registered and get in to sit with you folks. I noticed there's a new encampment going up near my home, and I'd just like to know how I can best help.
Joanna, that's a perfect thing to be doing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And I'll go next. I'm Jess Thompson. I am part of the Policy, Innovation, and Evaluation Department at Tacoma Housing Authority. So I will be presenting to you all about some proposed changes to our Housing Opportunity Program and our College Housing Assistance Program. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Jess. We really look forward to that.
I have not been in this meeting before. My name is Kenneth King. I'm with the Pierce County Alliance. I'm on the new Pierce County Recovery Navigator Program. I'm a outreach coordinator.
Kenneth, great. Thanks for your work and glad you're here.
I'm Carla Martinez. I also work for Pierce County Alliance as one of the recovery navigators in the Recovery Navigator program. And I'm one of Kenneth's coworkers. We're just trying to get some more referrals for our program and try to help homeless people and drug addicted people get homeless some services for housing.
Excellent, Carla. We're really happy to have you too. Thank you.
My name's Janae Worley. I am a volunteer homeless advocate who has been homeless in the past myself. I'm working on a nonprofit that will help with long-term homeless and reoccurring homeless issues from people that are disabled and otherwise that kind of slip through our system.
Gianna, that's Jania. That hope I'm saying it right.
Janae, but please call me Jay.
Janae. If you want to make other contacts here, you put your name and contact information in the chat, and then people can talk with you later after this meeting. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Well, all right. Welcome everybody today. And so we got to meet some new folks. You didn't get to meet all of us, but we'll have a chance to meet a few more a little later in the meeting. And Rob, it's up to you now.
Oh boy. Thanks, Rosemary. And it's great to see everybody this morning. 63 of us in the room. That's a good turnout. So let's get started with our This Week on the Streets segment of the meeting. So we've devoted quite a bit of time to this morning's meeting after having such a robust conversation about what people were seeing on the streets last week. We wanted to carve out good time for that this week. And so during this portion of the meeting, we urge folks who are interacting directly with those who are living on the streets, outreach teams, those kinds of folks to share what they're seeing, share what the needs are, and what changes we're seeing in the last week. And I'm really counting on Richard being able to share a little context today. So let's go ahead and get started, and just raise your hand if you have something to add.
Okay, sure. Obviously, the 705 encampment sweep was front and center. I think the thing to pay attention to is there have been let's see, there was a sweep in Fife at 72nd and and now the 705. And Jeffrey and others, you may add on to this too, but what I'm seeing is a whole lot of people moving around, some onesies and twosies encampments springing up. And I guess what's on my mind too is the possibility of an after action review might be a welcome thing, particularly if the city were able to participate in. And then I'm also considering, where's the next sweep going to occur? When are they going to post? And the one thing, 705 was large, and I know people go out there besides myself, but frequently I'm out there alone. I'm other than the city people. It would be useful that maybe we could huddle up and coordinate and be present when the next event occurs, which probably isn't going to be too long. They fenced the 705 2 days ago. Fencing cost $1,200 plus labor and staffing and all that went on. So the sweep was not inexpensive for the week. And then there's about 2 stragglers on the south side, or whatever side that is, the lower side of the encampment. And then I suspect tightening up the fencing as the final campers are leave the encampment. So that's kind of what's going on. It's kind of a ghost town down there right now.
Thank you, Richard. And I know a number of folks have been going out to 7th and Tacoma Avenue as well. So there might be some folks who have something to say there. Helena, I see your hand up.
Hi, I'm from Serve the People, and so I wanted to speak. We're alternating, me and Zev, who was here last week. Speaking to people last weekend, there was a pretty heightened awareness of kind of how there is both the ordinance, but also how they view themselves to be impacting businesses in the local community, and thinking about how they see people crossing the street or going around the block to avoid the encampments, and that they also have a desire for things to be cleaner, but also like of course not wanting to be swept or evicted from their homes. We've been able to up our program a little bit by gaining better access to a food pantry with a lot more food. And so we've kind of cut that out, and we can grow and develop our food service with much more recipes and healthy things. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'm glad to hear about kind of how things went with the 705 sweep, because I wasn't aware of where people are, but I'm definitely seeing also like the movement that he just spoke about from people.
Thank you. So I thought I would share, I also was out last weekend just running in the far south part of town, and did notice a relatively large number of folks living just off of McKinley in vehicles, not far from where the Planet Fitness site was at 72nd and L Street. So that area and around Blueberry Park looked like where a number of folks settled, but not in a similar manner yet to what was at 72nd and L Street. One other thing I did want to throw into the mix, and I'm sure those who have been doing direct outreach have been paying attention, but excuse me, the weather is actually predicted to get kind of cold in the next week, with the temperatures down into the 20s. So it's going to be a continued need. Let's see, Carla, I am going to mute you right now. There we go. So there's going to be a continued need for cold weather gear and help for folks who are struggling with staying outdoors during that cold weather. So I just wanted to plant that seed as well. Others with thoughts about what they're seeing on the streets this week?
Well, I've been out.
Joanna?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Joanna and then Ed.
Yeah, I was just, we've got a small little encampment happening, just starting to happen this last week on C Street and about 143rd. We've got a couple of, one really large tent going up, another small tent. I'm concerned about the weather coming as well. What can I do as just John Q. Public? How can I be of help with these folks?
That's a great question. Ed might have some thoughts, because I know Ed did it direct outreach during the cold weather there at the end of December and early January, in terms of that short-term help to get through the cold. Ed?
If we can get blankets to hand out and water, clean and dry socks are really important in that environment, and the 18-hour hand warmers make a huge difference, because they can actually start the hand warmers, put it in their sleeping bag, and go to sleep knowing that they're still going to be warm or semi-warm when they wake up. I'm seeing just a lot of movement of people, some of which have landed at 10th and 11th and L in that area. And it looks to be to have some folks in there that will clean up after each other. So over the last few days, they've been policing the area and making sure that the garbage is picked up, which is great.
Thank you for that, Ed. Janet? And you're muted right now.
Thank you. I was out just one day this week with Richard for a few minutes, and people did seem to be settling in at L, whatever it is, 11th and L. But what I also did, I'll just mention quickly, I spent some time with the business people there by Johnson Candy that have had windows broken. And I've had some really great conversations about what they'd like to see happen. They do not want homeless people to go into jail. They don't want them criminalized. They don't want, they've had a lot of people coming around and talking to them. I think from kind of wanting to just sweep them out, you know, wherever. And then yesterday, I have a friend that lives right by Ladonut, which is on 11th and by L. Very progressive young woman, now has a baby and has a business downtown. She will not, she said her biggest thing was the trash. But not only the trash, she's got a baby. She cannot take the baby in the stroller. Can't take, you know, can't go for a walk anymore. And I feel such an urgency that if people, you know, like you all that are doing all this great work, if we can't get some of this taken care of, that we're going to go to more draconian measures. So that's just my personal, you know, being out there. But lots of good conversations with the unhoused and with caring, very caring business people and residents.
Thank you, Janet. Jeffrey.
Well, I'd like to add my common theme for those who have been saying, what can we do? Garbage bags, garbage bags, garbage bags. I can't stress that enough. And the city will pick them up, and we just have to let them know where they are. But they've already made arrangements to pick up the garbage bags. If the garbage is in bags or a box and stacked appropriately, they will be picked up.
Jeffrey, is there a numbered, I had the same conversation a little bit with Catherine Ushka yesterday. Is there a specific number to call to let them know to pick up? For example, at 7th and Tacoma right now, there's a whole bunch of garbage stacked in the corner. I don't know who to call.
Let Ushka know. She's the one, she was my connection to getting that done.
Yeah, but that's not really an efficient way to do it. I think
she has not passed on that information to me.
Okay, thank you.
Was that again, Jeffrey, was that with the Purple Bag Project that was doing the pickup, or was it separate?
That was a separate program.
Okay.
What it was is they had used the companies that were cleaning up the sweeps after the sweeps to pick up the garbage during the week. And they've usually identified where all the sites are and been doing it. And maybe I just need to get a hold of Ushka again and find out who her contact is in the city to get that going again. Getting the garbage picked up really helps the rest of the community tolerate at least a little bit the encampments. And it keeps it safe for the campers too, because it keeps the rats out. So I would say everybody here, let your council people know that if the campers are going to do something, then the city needs to do something. If the campers are going to put their garbage in bags, then the city needs to pick it up.
So this is Richard again. I am putting emphasis now on 7th and Tacoma with garbage pickup and also just interacting with the folks that are living there. By way of good news, the woman I met online last week cooked up 25 hot chili lunch meals for me about 2 o'clock before Super Bowl kickoff that Ed and I took to 11th and L. And then apparently she's cooking again this weekend. So anyway, there's things that people can do, and food is always welcome in the encampments.
Thank you, Richard. And Janet, you have your hand up. Is it still from before? Okay, not a problem. And the one thing I wanted to say for Joanna is I'm not sure that the same garbage pickup would apply outside the city limits. And then Stacy had a question about the garbage pickup being separate from the typical municipal waste management. That's actually working with a contractor, isn't it, Jeffrey? Is that your understanding? Okay.
Yes, it's with a separate contractor.
Yeah, the city retains a contractor, and I think it's the same contractor that they use for the actual cleanup when they remove a site.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the name of that does not ring a bell. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, the colder it gets, the more water people need. It's not just in heat situations.
Yeah. Yep. Great point. So anyone else with any final items related to what you're seeing on the street this week?
Specific question about necessity. Have we looked at like emergency blankets and things like that that are lightweight, that will retain heat, that can be outputted quickly? Is that a need that you guys see currently? I know when I was homeless, it was something that was dire. So.
Yeah. Ed, thoughts on that, or Jeffrey? I mean, Jeffrey's doing a thumbs up, so.
Yeah, as soon as the weather turns colder, that's necessary. And I'm not sure, when we had a bunch of snow on the ground, we showed up at the EOC, but where we can pick up blankets, that's a good point. If it's 2 or 3 days away, it gives us 2 or 3 days to find somebody with a bunch of blankets.
Well, not only that, but emergency blankets that are like that don't retain water, so they don't freeze on you. Yeah. And that is the specific need, is that if you have an emergency blanket between you and your cloth, you're not going to suffer that freeze damage. You're not going to get as much permafrost and damage from being out in the cold that way. So I'll see if I can't find a way of getting some of those to you guys.
Janae, are you talking about the blankets that reflect heat back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those are
like thermal metallic blankets that you use during fire emergency and things like that. Super lightweight, that aren't going to cost them any weight to carry.
Thank you.
One final thing that I'll add here, I'm going to paste in the chat the phone number for the Lighthouse Activity Warming Center. If you see people who need help overnight to stay warm, that's a resource within the city of Tacoma that will be open. It's open 24/7. According to the latest update on our pchomeless.org website, there were 4 spaces available. That was as of the 16th. So I do remind folks, if you do run into people who you might be able to refer to any of the shelter resources, you can go to pchomeless.org and see the latest updates of spaces that are available. As I look at the listing, the way that Garrett Nyland at the county usually puts it is that the larger shelters update pretty frequently on that page. It's a self-reported system. Some of the smaller shelters, though, haven't updated for a while. So those folks would just, you'd have to give them a call. But if you go to the pchomeless.org site and click on the link in the green bar that says overnight shelter, that is, that's where you can find out what's available and what phone numbers there are for shelter spaces. Yeah, Kenneth?
I know that often we talk about how many spaces are available, but are there places that have like walk-in, walk-out that are overnight, like just warming centers that are walk-in, walk-out?
So the only one really is the Lighthouse Center, at least within the city of Tacoma.
So they are doing drop-in?
It says walk up 24/7. So I believe that's what they're allowing.
I'll try to
I think
swing
it's
by.
always better to call first, if possible.
I'll try to
Again,
swing
that
by.
site's- Yeah, that site's down off Pacific Avenue at 50th and A Street. So it's not in the downtown core, but still within the Tacoma city limits, about halfway down Pacific.
Do y'all know of any places, I'm sorry, do y'all know of any places where people are coordinating or grouping up like overnight? Like I know up in Seattle, the bus tunnels entrances have hot air coming out of them and stuff like that. Where people are just walking up and then.
Yeah, I'm not
staying
aware of
mobile.
anything similar.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say the one piece of good news related to the weather is that it is supposed to get cold overnight, but it's also warming up during the day. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a period where it's below freezing temperatures for days on end like we had in the last spell. Betty, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, good morning. I was just wondering if there's any way that you guys could put on your website the needs, like those blankets. My grandsons have a bunch of them from survival kits. And then, you know, who we would take those to, and like the hand warmers, I don't have a clue where to get 18-hour ones, or if somebody can get them less expensive than maybe say if I were just to go like to a sporting goods store and find them.
Betty, the best place to buy those that we found was Amazon.
Or
Yeah,
Costco.
the challenge with of course Costco's great if you can find them there.
I don't know if they have the 18-hour ones at Costco.
Yeah, I don't know if they do or not.
I buy the little ones, but I don't know that they have the 18 hours. So just a place where to take them, I guess, who to give them to. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Betty. And I think it's safe to say that if you do purchase some and post to the coalition mailing list, those who are doing outreach will be able to see those messages and be able to reach back out to you. So that's one option to help distribute things. Janet?
I'm wondering, is anybody from Lehigh or Rise Center here today? Because they did act as the temporary staging site during the last inclement weather. So if somebody from the old Comfort Inn site on Hosmer, or somebody from Rise, so Rise would service the city area, or Stability Site. Is somebody here from Stability Site? If we could get one or two of those folks to agree to be a staging area, that might help.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Rob. I just jumped in, so I don't know if there was a question to that. Just as Janet was talking, I jumped in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were just discussing, Gerald, that there's a potential for cold overnight temperatures coming up next week. And if we end up with a need to coordinate supplies for outreach folks to go out, That's what Janet was bringing up, was the potential of reaching out to Rise and seeing if you guys would be willing to do that. I see your thumb. So if you want to drop your information, Gerald, into the chat, that would be fantastic. All right. Rosemary.
I just have been following the chat, and there's such amazing information in there that especially for new people, I want to encourage you to look there, and also to save it at the end. If you have done that in other settings, there are 3 little dots down at the bottom of the column, and it saves to your documents on your computer, and then you can get access to it that way. It's also available, but not immediately, through our website.
Thank you for that reminder, Rosemary. That's great. So let's shift to the next item on our agenda, but if there's continued sharing that folks want to do in the chat, again, to Rosemary's point, please continue to use that. And I would like to move to our community spotlight, and Serena Thompson from Vadis has joined us this morning. And Serena, would you like to tell us what update you have about Vadis?
Absolutely. And I'm going to share my screen. You got that in a minute. So
yeah, let me get you set up to do that.
Awesome. I'll just say my introduction here. I'm Serena Thompson, and she, her, hers homeless service provider for Vadis. I've been with Vadis about 8 years in May. And for those of you who don't know Vadis, it started 40+ years ago, and we help people with disabilities find work. That was like their main niche back then. And we're in 5 different counties: King, Pierce, Thurston, Kitsap, Snohomish. We only offer homeless services program in our Pierce County division. And I guess I'll share my screen now and give you a little bit more information about what our homeless services program looks like. So let me see here. PowerPoint, share, and I want this one. And slideshow.
We're able to see that. And if you just want to go into the slideshow mode, then we'll
from beginning. Cool. Thank you. Fantastic. All right. So this is just a orientation page, and I'm going to go into our homeless services programs that we offer. So we are partnered with the ACT Outreach team. Sandra is my coworker. She's my lead. It's only the 2 of us that are in this program. But she kind of leads the ACT Outreach Service team. And there we support youth ages 12 to 24 in outreach needs and resources. So things like getting documents for them, or maybe they need clothing, EBT, food, and every referral for that comes through the ACT team. And then here we have Housing for Success. So they're a rapid rehousing program. And in Tacoma, they were housed at the Reach Center there, but now they've moved to TCH. And then there we are just employment case managers. So the young adult or youth comes from coordinated entry, and then they get paired with a housing case manager and then an employment case manager. And from there, Sandra and I do things just all employment, income-based, help them with debt, maybe gain credit, pay off bills, maybe we attend court with them. All of those needs we assist the housing case managers in. And then we're also do the McKinney-Vento outreach. So I'm actually at Foss School District, Henry Foss, on Fridays 12 to 2. And there I offer McKinney-Vento students, and those are youth experiencing homelessness in some way, or maybe housing instability. They can be couch surfing. Maybe their families are doubled up with another family. So maybe it's mom and son living with an aunt. So I get a list of individuals from them, and we help them with all outreach. Same thing like IDs, maybe they're old enough to find work. We can pay for certain items. So food handlers, permits, things like that. I assist in making resumes, all sorts of good stuff. Make sure they're connected to their free lunches. They get free Orca cards through the school district. I make sure they know about that. I find that a lot of the youth that come into my office there, they don't know that they're offered their ASB card. That's free for them. So I get them that ASB card. We also get other referrals from Pierce County schools. So that most of those come directly through email though. And then we are a rapid rehousing program. And Sandra and I get about 7 to 10 individuals on our caseload. And we actually do the housing for them and housing navigation, find them homes and help assist in case management so that they're stable on their own. So we receive those referrals from coordinated entry. And in the community, is there a bar on? Oops, I'm not sure how to go back. But that was just a picture anyway of a life. We do life skills in the community, you guys. So Sandra actually partners, or we partner, Vadis partners with Landlord Liaison Program, and we teach renters readiness. So our section of that program is accessing community resources and how to be a good tenant. So she teaches that on the first Friday of every month, but it is that whole course is it's 3 Fridays for 2 hours, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's on Zoom right now. So that's that. And I teach life skills classes in Tacoma. We offer it to our participants. Our rapid rehousing participants or the Housing for Success participants first, and then we'll offer it to some of the outreach because we want those seats filled. They have been real scaled down. So about 5 participants in the seats, and even that's hard to get youth and young adults to come and attend. So lately we've been lucky to have a little bit of extra funding for a light meal or pizza and a gift card. So they walk away with a $25 gift card. And we teach those at the Surge building down on Tacoma Avenue South. And that's actually my role. So you'll see me doing those classes down there once a month, usually on Wednesdays. And some classes I teach are building confidence, values, what are my values and how they link to employment, budgeting, resume making, cover letters, all sorts of different cool life skills classes. Those are going 2 hours is what we're going for on those right now. And then this slide I've actually added, we're really strong on, we really love community partners, and we refer to a lot of places. The Coffee Oasis Youth Shelter is underage, 17 and under, and where we'll always guide youth to there, or the youth shelters, Rainbow Oasis Youth Center. And then Sandra is on the board for the Anchor Community Initiative, so to end youth homelessness in Pierce County. And this here at the bottom, the comfort of housing, but our mission statement is assisting individuals experiencing homelessness in becoming self-sufficient through life skills, resources, and employment opportunities. I'm going to leave my contact information in the chat, and I guess moving forward, we're concentrating on essential supports beyond roof. So that's kind of where we're going. I guess stop share. Let me hit this. I'm sorry if you guys saw a black bar in the window. I'm working on my technology skills. So any questions?
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question of Serena.
Now that I see any, I'm going to leave my contact information in the chat, or you can message me here and I'll leave my email. So if you guys have anything to follow up with me, I would love to hear from you, partner with you. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for making time to be here today. It's great to hear what you're offering in the community. And I hope folks will reach out to you in the chat.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is, so we wanted to offer an opportunity for Jess Thompson from Tacoma Housing Authority to talk about changes to the HOP program and other programs. So Jess, let me get you set up with the ability to share your screen.
Thank you.
Which you should have now.
Looks like it. Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Okay, so hopefully you all can see my screen.
We can.
Awesome. And I'm just gonna keep the chat and your faces in front of me to kind of track if there's any questions. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm Jess Thompson. I'm with Tacoma Housing Authority, and I work in our policy department. And so over the last couple of years, we've been evaluating our college housing assistance program in conjunction with a couple of external evaluators, and then also our housing opportunity program. And that's the current subsidy that we offer to people seeking to rent on the private market. So a little bit of background. The HOP subsidy was implemented in 2013. And the reason why we decided to essentially kind of stop issuing the Housing Choice Voucher, or HCV, which is more commonly known as Section 8, we stopped issuing the Housing Choice Voucher and transitioned over to HOP because of a lot of budget constraints at that time. There were a lot of housing authorities that were just not issuing any vouchers, and THA wanted to figure out a way to continue to issue subsidies, but also to serve more people at that time. And so our approach with the HOP subsidy was to try to serve more people by giving everyone a little bit less. So that idea of kind of thinning the soup in order to kind of bring more people to the table. And the way we did that is where Housing Choice Voucher is an income-based subsidy, where households pay about 30% of their income towards rent. The Housing Opportunity Program looked at providing a subsidy that was worth 50% of the payment standards. And so payment standards are based on HUD's assessment of fair market rents, and then also average rents in the area. So households coming in and receiving a HOP subsidy all receive a fixed subsidy amount based on their household size. And so you can have a household, of 3 with 0 income, they're going to receive the same amount in subsidy as a household of 3 with, let's say, 45% area median income. And we'll kind of walk through some examples of what that looks like. So what we wanted to do more recently, as we were seeing some challenges arise with the College Housing Assistance Program, and that's a program that uses the HOP subsidy, and just talking to staff at THA, was we wanted to understand how households that have received this fixed subsidy are doing in comparison to households that receive the income-based subsidy. And so we decided to kind of compare outcomes in 4 different areas. And that was the ability to secure housing with a subsidy. So we issue the voucher for people to shop on the market and hopefully lease up. So we wanted to see kind of what are the differences in those lease up rates. What are changes in income from entry to the program to exit? One of the differences between HOP and the Housing Choice Voucher is that HOP is a time-limited program for households that are not elderly or disabled. So HOP households have a 5-year time limit. And the idea here was that that would motivate people to increase their earnings so that once their assistance ends, they're better off. So we wanted to see if that held true. And then we also dove into the account details to find out why people may have lost their assistance or why they exited from the program. And then lastly, we wanted to look at their rent burden. So how much of their income do they have to spend on rent, both while receiving assistance and once their assistance ends? So those are the 4 pieces. I'm not diving into all the data with you all today because we don't have time. However, we have a full report that I'll send out to the listserv, as well as a website kind of detailing the specifics. So what I do want to do today is kind of show you all and walk through that difference for households in 4 different scenarios. Trying to lease up kind of what's the value of the HOP subsidy versus the housing choice voucher. So with scenario A, if we were to look at a household with no income, and all of these scenarios assume that the rent matches the payment standards for kind of simplicity's sake here. So first scenario, we're looking at a household with no income. In both subsidy models, our occupancy standards are 2 heartbeats per bedroom. So as a 2-person household, they would qualify for a 1-bedroom subsidy. On HOP, since that subsidy is 50% of the payment standards, that means THA would cover $581. The household would cover the remaining balance. So again, if rent was the payment standards of $1,162, the household would pay $581 in rent. The likelihood is this household would actually not be doing that because they would not be able to lease up. Landlords often want to see 2 to 3 times the rent amount as the household income. So it's an unlikely scenario that a household would be in this situation. With the housing choice voucher program, it being income-based, a household with no income would have a minimum rent payment. We set that for a work-able household at $75. And then the THA subsidy would cover the remaining rent. And so that would be $1,087. The next scenario is looking at a household that's on a fixed income. So if we were to assume this is a household receiving, SSI, they'd be getting $791 a month in income. With a HOP subsidy, again, their income doesn't really matter. They also receive that $581. And just like the previous household, they would pay the remaining portion of $581. So that puts their rent burden at 74%. So 3/4 of their income would have to be spent to pay rent. With the income-based housing choice voucher, the household would be expected to pay $237 towards rent because that's 30% of their income. THA would pay the remaining portion, $925. So that keeps their rent burden at about 30%. Scenario C, this is labeled average income because when I looked at households that qualified for a 2-bedroom subsidy that have applied and come through THA in the last 2 years, the average income for a 4-person household was about $19,500. So we wanted to kind of see what does this look like for that average 4-person household. With a HOP subsidy, again, they're getting 50% of the payment standards, so $742 is the subsidy, and then the household pays the remaining balance. So if rent matches payment standards, they're also paying $742. So that puts them just below a severe market rent burden, severe rent burden at 46% of their income going towards rent. Housing choice voucher, a third of the income would be $488, and then THA again paying the remaining rent burden 30%. Then we have kind of the highest income, and this is looking at you have to be at or below 50% area median income to qualify for THA assistance. So this would be a 4-person household right at that brink of just under that 50% area median income. And with this household, you can see the HOP subsidy actually works to their benefit. Paying that other half of the payment standards would put them at a 20% rent burden versus housing choice voucher program kind of keeping it at that 30%. And so what this shows and demonstrates is that it's the households with kind of the least amount of income, households that are extremely low income, that are really struggling to even use the housing opportunity program. And that kind of came through in our research. And Kathy, I see your hand up. And I'm gonna, if you don't mind waiting till the very end, I'd love to get your question. So a quick summary of the findings. As I kind of just mentioned with LeaseUp, we see that housing choice voucher holders are more likely to secure housing than people issued the HOP subsidy. And this is especially true for those lowest income households. When it came to income, this was a really, I think, cool finding. Housing choice voucher holders were more likely to increase their income than households receiving the flat subsidy. There's a lot of criticism towards the income-based subsidy that it de-incentivizes increasing one's income, because as you increase your income, you pay more in rent. But what we did is we took a sample of work-able households that came on at roughly the same time, exited at roughly the same time, that primary difference being which subsidy they received. And households with the housing choice voucher increased their income nearly 200%. And that was over $22,000 compared to households on the HOP subsidy who were less likely to increase their income. It was 60% increase their income compared to 85%. And that average increase was 33%. So that was a really, I think, significant finding there, and kind of blows the assumption of these households just need motivation to increase their earnings out of the water. This isn't necessarily about motivation. These are larger systemic issues. When it came to program exits, housing choice voucher holders are more likely to exit for positive circumstances. They were 3 times more likely to exit because they had achieved self-sufficiency. So looking at exits was one way for us to see, are people exiting in a circumstance where they're potentially just returning to our wait list or returning to the homelessness system? Or are they exiting in a way that they're kind of exiting that system entirely because they're better off? And then also with rent burden, HOP households are twice as likely to have a severe rent burden even while receiving assistance. So having to pay more than 50% of their income on rent while receiving assistance. And with market rent burden, housing choice voucher holders were less likely to face that severe market rent burden. So less likely to have to pay 50% or more of their income towards rent upon exit. So I know I've thrown like a lot of numbers at you, but this was us just trying to measure success and trying to figure out kind of what's happening and how are our households doing. So from the data, what we are recommending or kind of proposing is that we convert that flat HOP subsidy to an income-based subsidy. Essentially that we shift all current and future households over to that income-based subsidy. Rough estimates show this will benefit about 2/3 of our clients across all demographic areas. What's also, I think, really compelling for us is that this change would reduce and in some instances reverse racial disparities that we see on the HOP program. So that's, I think, really, really compelling for us. And then it also will apply to move on vouchers. And that's where I think this population might want to hear about this. Right now, THA subsidizes a lot of project-based voucher programs. So these are properties providing, intensive case management, permanent supportive housing. Once someone has been at one of those properties for a year, they have the ability to request a voucher from THA in order to move off and rent in the private market. Right now, that's a HOP subsidy. So they're essentially kind of given the choice, stay where you are with income-based rent or get a flat subsidy, which is often kind of worth less to rent on the private market. So no one's really taking us up on that. But this change would actually convert that choice mobility voucher over to an income-based voucher, which means that transition to the private rental market would be much easier financially, and hopefully open up and kind of create more turnover at those units and at those properties in order to serve people through coordinated entry. So that's kind of, again, thinking about the ripple effects. The other piece of our recommendation is to eliminate the time limits. So improve the ability to lease up. This is something, if someone's moving midway in that 5-year period and a landlord sees, oh, you're only going to get assistance for a year and a half, what is that going to do to kind of impact that person's ability to lease up? We also expect it would reduce evictions. HOP households had the same rate of achieving self-sufficiency as being evicted. So we would hope that that would reduce the likelihood of evictions and just overall improve outcomes for households. And then lastly, I just want to talk about kind of our CHAP recommendations. When we looked at the data across all 4 areas, CHAP participants were worse off compared to any other population. And that really surprised us. We actually expected the opposite, because as college students, we assume the supports available at the college would help kind of ensure that we see better outcomes. But we don't. We have actually a lot of people lose their assistance because they don't maintain eligibility. So we're kind of looking at 2 different paths in terms of moving forward. One would be convert CHAP, that subsidy, over to just a 5-year time-limited income-based voucher. And CHAP is the College Housing Assistance Program, sorry about that, which serves homeless and near homeless students at TCC. And then we also serve some students at UW-T. So we have 75 vouchers dedicated to CHAP. And then we also have nearly 200 subsidized units near the campuses that students can be referred over to. So they get kind of priority access to these subsidized units. However, since we're seeing really poor outcomes on CHAP, we're really trying to figure out where to go from here. Should we keep kind of making modifications and hoping for better outcomes, or should we look at some other approaches to how we can support post-secondary access and participation? So linked on our website as of this morning, we have kind of a framework in which to explore how we define the problem that CHAP is trying to solve and how that problem statement shifts kind of what we see as a potential solution. So that's available if you want to explore it further. And I'm also happy to take kind of further questions. So I know I think I have a minute. In that minute, what I'd like to do is point you to our website that outlines the changes, again, summarizes the research, differences between the 2 programs, and it links to a public comment form where people can also leave comment, let us know kind of your thoughts on these proposed changes. And also if you have thoughts about CHAP, if you have ideas, we have created a very complicated program that makes administering it even more challenging. It makes participating in it incredibly challenging. And so we really would like to kind of simplify the approach and figure out kind of how we can best serve and support people exploring post-secondary participation. So the poor outcomes for CHAP, only about half of CHAP participants are able to lease up. And what was surprising is that's across all of the different income levels. So half of the people accepted into the CHAP program don't actually get housed. We also see over half who received the voucher lose assistance because they've disenrolled, they've not maintained academic progress. I think a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If removing someone's housing assistance is a way to get them back to education, I don't think so. That's my personal stance. But again, a lot of this is what is the problem? Is the problem simply we don't want their education disrupted, and so let's make sure they're able to maintain enrollment? Or is the problem homelessness and housing insecurity? In which case, I think the kind of person, the human needs come first. So the document that we have linked on the website kind of breaks it all out in that framework of what exactly is the problem and what does that solution look like? So, okay. So I see a number of comments.
Can I ask my question before we go to the comments? Because I've been waiting patiently the whole time.
Go for it, Kathy.
Thanks. I felt like I was being skipped over there for a minute. Jess, I am Kathy Pick, and I am currently the lead advocate for the Tacoma Tenants Organizing Committee. I'm not new to the organization, but I'm new to this role. And over the last week and a half, I've actually had 3 different scenarios come up that have to do with Tacoma Housing Authority. I'm just trying to get an understanding of how things work. And I was wondering if perhaps I could follow up with you directly. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I have your email. I took a picture of your email. So I will be sending you a message later on after we adjourn.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
And I would like to give a shout out. She's not going to do it for herself, but Sunshine Harper is using her lived experience to help other students. And I'm so proud of her for her new role as the CHAP advisor at TCC. You know, students experience a lot more housing and food insecurity than one would think of. And as a TCC graduate, I just thank her from the bottom of my heart for her work. It's very important. You know, when you have a test or an assignment that's coming up, but you're also worried that your landlord is going to be posting a notice on your door. And that's real. That's my experience. And it's heartbreaking and it's distracting. And unless you're somebody like me who's very tenacious and digs their heels in, I can see why some students would have, you know, difficulty with that. And I just, my role was to lead by experience. So at any rate, I really appreciate the chat program, and I'll send you my thoughts on that as well.
Thanks, Kathy. I look forward to chatting.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
And thanks for the shout out to Sunshine.
She's amazing.
Thank you. So,
Lisa,
you guys,
I see your hand up. Or
I'm
there's
crying.
Sunshine.
I'm sorry, but thank you. I just had to say thank you because of, you know, I'm not, I'm just fighting for these students, you know, and that's from my heart, but just, you guys are awesome. And you all have a lot of support. Let's just say that. So thanks. Yeah, we do it together.
Teresa, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I hope my internet is not so crappy that you can't hear me. It's okay. That's why I have my video off. In any case, a couple of things. One is that the CHAP program, I don't think you're seeing an outcome that's very different than all college students in terms of people dropping out. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is that yours is one of the only ways that people who are really low income can get into that system and have at least a shot at it. So I don't think you should measure it the same way you do the rest of your programs. That's just my thought. Also, people coming out of incarceration, that CHAP program has been the thing that has allowed them to go back to school sometimes. So I just, I love it. I hope you keep doing it. Second thing is, I can't believe that HOPS was even tried. I don't know who came up with that brainchild, but it would have been obvious to most people from the beginning that it was a sucky idea. That's just saying. So I'm glad you're going back to the other one. And then the third thing is those incomes, those prices for housing that you list, they're non-existent. So it's like there's this whole other issue of maybe Tacoma Housing Authority should focus on building low-income housing instead of these rent subsidies, which are never going to catch up with the market. So anyway, I don't know if you've thought about that, if that's even in the conversation, but that's my question.
Yeah, the vast majority of the people that we serve are actually residents at our housing. HOP makes up about, I want to say about 550 households. So it's a relatively smaller program. And hopefully with federal funding coming in and whatnot, our main focus is development, recognizing that inventory is a huge problem. We could say we're paying everyone's rent outright, but we still have limits on what we can pay based on what HUD sets. So we have to work within a lot of constraints, which is, I know I saw things about kind of co-designing with students, and I'll tell you the amount of time it takes to just learn the bureaucratic process at a housing authority and what's possible and what isn't. Those students would be graduate students by the time they're done and qualified to run a housing authority. So yeah, I hear a lot of what everyone's saying, and I hear the discussion about successes with students and that these are normal numbers. I think our concern is removing their housing assistance when there is a disruption. The average time it takes to complete a 2-year degree is 5.5 years. And having been faculty at a community college and having students be in the middle of a crisis where honestly they should not be enrolled because they need to take care of themselves and their health and their families. But enrollment is the only thing they can do to have money to survive. The ripple effect, the collateral consequences, are even more troubling as well. So I hear that piece, and it's figuring out how do we develop a program that is supportive, but also reflects the reality of the student experience. So I appreciate all of your future input as we are over time.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming and talking to us this morning, Jess. Thank you very much for the thorough presentation. I did see there are a couple other items in the chat that you might want to address. An easy one was a request for your email address, your contact information. But if you could use the chat to respond to some of those things, that would be great.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
All right. So let's shift gears. We will move now to our regular government updates. Do we have anybody on the call from the city of Tacoma who had an update for us this week? Okay, I didn't get anything in email, but I will later in the advocacy update provide some opportunities for folks to track and participate in city activities in the coming week. So let's shift over to Jeff Rogers from Pierce County Human Services. Jeff?
We do not have an update either for today.
Wow. Well, we're suddenly back on schedule for our agenda.
Nothing to report on.
All right. Thanks for being here, Jeff. I didn't even notice. I don't see Valerie on the call. Lori, anything that you think you would want to say about rental assistance and
Sure. I know that the portal is not open yet. I don't, we haven't been privy to the information about exactly why that is, but we're hoping, the last I heard, we were out at the Fife Library last night with Associated Ministries staff. We were only scheduled for 2 hours, but we stayed for 3 till the library closed. It was really busy. So we're doing our best to stay out there and keep people updated who've already applied for rental assistance. Make sure everybody knows what to do when the portal opens, how to get updates, all that. So we're still waiting. We know that once it does open, I think there's money available till at least September, and I know they've requested more. So not an issue of no money. They're still processing applications, and they're still on August applications. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So appreciate that, and I would presume Valerie will probably be back next week. If I remember right, I thought the target for reopening the portal was early March, but
yeah, it was originally February 4th, and now I think we're talking beginning of March.
Okay. Well, thanks for what you could share there.
Yeah.
So the next person on our agenda would be Jenny from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I don't see anything on my video. Do you all see me?
No.
That's weird.
You can be just our disembodied voice today.
I guess. Wow, that is very strange. I was just on video earlier, so I don't know what's going on with my computer, but okay. Sorry about that. Good morning. I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me as always. As you all know, we are seeing, cases of COVID continuing to drop, which is great news. Just to give you sort of an example, we are, in terms of cases, we're down about 38% lower than the previous 2-week period. So that is great news. We have the current hospitalization rate is also lower. So that's really good news. As you've heard me say before, our hospitals have really been so maxed out. So this is really welcome news. We've got about 68% of all our eligible residents who are vaccinated in Pierce County. Unfortunately, we see gaps still, big gaps in certain populations. So the last time I saw, this isn't Pierce County specific, but the last thing I saw from DOH was that less than 40% of Medicaid folks, Medicaid population is fully vaccinated. So that's a huge gap. So at the department, we're still really working hard to get folks vaccinated. In terms of the population of interest for you all, we are continuing COVID-19 vaccine clinics at 10 shelters and day centers through at least mid-March with our partnership with our contractor ambulance. And I've got my 7-year-old here out of school today, and he's kind of bouncing off the wall. So apologies for my distraction. But anyhow, please encourage folks to get vaccinated, encourage folks to get boosted. We're seeing lower rates of people being up to date, which means fully vaccinated plus boosted. So that is still really, really important, even as we see cases decrease. So we're also still in flu season. So get vaccinated against the flu if you haven't already. I'm going to share some testing information. We're working on more options for COVID testing that are walk up, no appointment necessary. I'll also share some resources for you all to get those free at-home test kits, because the state and the feds are still sending test kits home to folks who need them. And I will share our testing webpage. Are there any questions for me? Rob.
Yeah, so with the governor updating the masking mandate information yesterday, do you have a sense of when the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department will be doing an update to local guidance?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I'm sorry that I didn't bring it up. It was definitely on my mind. I've been having some family issues and didn't see the press conference yesterday, but read all about it. And looked to see if we have any updates this morning as a department, and we do not. I checked in with my team. To see, do we think that TPCHD will have some official stance? Will it be just line, in step with the governor, or might it not be? And I just can't answer that question right now, but I appreciate you bringing it up. Just so everyone knows, what Rob is talking about is that the governor did announce that at the end of March, I think March 21st, we will, unless something changes radically, if our numbers still keep going down, that we will be doing away with mask mandates, indoor mask mandates for most of us, including in schools, excluding healthcare workers, congregate settings, etc. Leah is just, I don't know if Leah Ford, my colleague, is chatting me saying we will have a press release today. So the department will have a press release. So sorry, that was really verbose, Rob, but just.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I just noticed I received an email from the school district kind of hunting to you guys while we've been in this meeting. So
yeah, exactly.
I was curious.
We tend to, the governor makes these announcements, then DOH says something, then we say something. And sometimes, most of the time I think it's in alignment with the governor, but who knows? Dr. Chen may feel differently. We'll see. Thank you so much.
Great.
Everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for your update. So the last government update would be from Pierce County Emergency Management. I'm not sure if we have anybody on the call, but wanted to pause for a second in case we do. Yeah, so I'm not hearing anybody. If someone from DEM is on the call and wants to offer an update in the chat, that would be fantastic. And let me shift gears and talk a little bit about advocacy. So what I'm going to outline today will be some opportunities at the City Council, Tacoma City Council level, Pierce County Council level, and then an update on the state legislative process taking place in Olympia right now. So when it comes to the Tacoma City Council, the City Council is actually holding 3 meetings this next week. Their regular study session on Tuesday at noon will have an update on the Home in Tacoma Phase 2 project. And again, Home in Tacoma is about increasing the opportunity for the construction of missing middle housing across the city. That initial phase was approved late last year by the outgoing council. This will be an update on this year's work that's ahead. The regular city council meeting on Tuesday night, at 5, it looks to be quite short. So the one thing that is on the agenda right now is that the city council is considering changing their emergency rules to allow in-person meetings. So if you're interested in that, that's one of the items on the agenda Tuesday night. On Wednesday, the city council will be holding a special meeting starting at 8:30 a.m. They'll be setting priorities for the new council coming into this year. So that'll be a discussion about what the slate of new council members hope to focus on in the coming year, along with the ongoing council members. At the Pierce County Council, you may have missed it in the chat, but Pierce County Council member Ryan Mello was with us earlier. He was highlighting the fact that the Performance Audit Committee on February 23rd at 10 a.m. is going to hear an update on the homelessness system gap analysis that was done by an outside consultant. That meeting, they will discuss the gap analysis, and I'm going to paste in the chat information about, if I can get it to work here, I'm going to paste the link to the page where the report itself will be posted. Typically they're posted on Fridays. I haven't had a chance to look this morning to see if it got posted already, but that would give a preview to you if you're interested in seeing what the consultants saw as gaps in the current homelessness support system across Pierce County. So encourage those who have the time to do so to attend that meeting on the 23rd. At the state legislative level, we just finished having our first cutoff date for legislation that actually cut off a number of bills that folks had been working hard on that didn't move from the House. The next cutoff date is February 24th, and that's for bills to come out of committee and be read into the record on the floor of the opposite House of origin. And there are upcoming dates coming in short succession because this is a short session this year. So February 28th is another cutoff date. March 4th is the last day for any bills to be considered in opposite houses of origin. And then March 10th is the actual end of the session. So they are rapidly rushing toward the end of session by March 10th. I did forward to the coalition mailing list the update from the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance regarding they were pushing really hard with our support on House Bill 1904, but it did not advance beyond the cutoff. So that bill would have provided renters with more notice of significant rent increases, but it didn't get the support it needed to move. There are a number of bills that remain in the mix in the Senate, including House Bill 1643, which would create a real estate excise tax exemption as an incentive to folks selling real estate that could be used for affordable housing. House Bill 1866, which is being pushed by Frank Chop, it would create essentially an Apple Health for Homes kind of system where health care support would be included with affordable housing. And then House Bill 2075 would set service requirements for DSHS. And that's been pushed really hard by the King County Coalition to End Homelessness around the issue that throughout COVID, local offices for DSHS have not been open for in-person services. So as new sign-on opportunities for bills come along, I'll pass those through the coalition mailing list. I'm trying not to flood folks with too much email, but if there's an opportunity for us to weigh in, I will pass those along. So any questions about legislative items? And I know it can be a blur because it's just a bunch of numbers and sadly seems like bad news. Rosemary?
I was just wondering, Rob, the Community Safety, Vitality and Safety Committee, I think, is meeting on Thursday at 4:30. And we'll be having a discussion of the camping ban proposal. So that would be something good to have people attend.
That's a great point. I actually have that in my notes and skipped right over it. So that meeting, I'll post the page link where folks can find all of these meetings for the city of Tacoma. And the meeting will be held on Zoom, so folks can check in there 4:30 on Thursday for that Community Vitality and Safety Committee. Jeffrey?
Did you talk about HB 1620?
I did not. Do you want to share something?
This 1620 sets extreme weather standards for the state to state agencies and county and city agencies to respond to extreme weather in their communities. Highly recommend this because the last two major weather issues that we've had here in Pierce County were only responded by the county because of the coalition's efforts. And so the idea was the governor felt that it was necessary to set a state standard for when emergency services need to be provided. Highly recommend helping that one, and that will definitely help our campers.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Kathy, you have your hand up?
I do. I would just, somebody mentioned Rosemary mentioned the CVS committee meeting, and that the proposed ordinance 28756, which is the proposed camping ban. This is very bad public policy. I've read the ordinance. It does not provide any pathway to shelter. There is no provision for that, as the proponents are misleading people on. It says you either take what we're offering you right now, or you can go to, or you're going to go to jail. And putting the unhoused into jail is not a solution. In fact, it's going to create barriers that they're going to have a more difficult time to overcome in the future. And I would encourage each of you to go onto the city's website to look at the ordinance itself. Spoiler alert, it's all the way on the last page. Very poorly written, hastily written piece, damaging. I'm making it my life's mission to defeat this ordinance right now. So I'm very passionate about it, but I'll just leave it right there.
Thank you, Kathy. And the one thing I will say is that the conversation about this potential legislation has been very different in the CVS meetings than it was at the council level when it was pushed by a number of former council members who are no longer on the council. So the conversation may be changing for the better. There is going to be an opportunity. There's a panel discussion scheduled to come up at the March 10th meeting of the Community Vitality and Safety Committee. That'll be the most critical sign of where the legislation is going and what might be proposed in its place. So
how does one get on that panel?
So I am unsure. They talked about it at the last CVS committee meeting.
Okay.
They're really trying to center different stakeholders, including those with lived experience. So I know they're wanting to hear different perspectives, but my sense from council member, actually Deputy Mayor Ushka, is that she is taking a much more measured approach to the issue.
She is.
So I don't want to, even though the old legislation that was proposed is out there, I don't think we need to bring the pitchforks and torches yet, but we're watching. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, Carolyn Reed.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Just another easy advocacy opportunity is to sign up to speak in front of the Pierce County Council to approve the 1% sales tax for supportive housing. It's starting to get to be a lot of the same people now, and it'd be really nice to get some fresh faces in front of them. And if you live in Hans Zeiger or Dave Morrell's district and would be interested in setting up a meeting with them, we'd love to support you in that to talk about this. So I'll put our contact person who's organizing the schedule to make sure somebody's speaking in front of them at least every week. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right, so if others, I saw there was some things being posted in the chat about additional bills to folks are following. So thank you for that. And I know it's a rush and it's a lot of numbers, and a lot to keep track of at this time of year, but this will soon wrap up with March 10th coming soon. So let's move on to the next item on our agenda. And this one is a short poll that we wanted to do. Last week, you will recall that Garrett Nyland mentioned the fact that the Pierce County's comprehensive plan to end homelessness is going to be shifting from having a steering committee to now having an advisory board that will continue to work with the plan as it moves forward. The update on the timing of when that plan is going to move forward, it was actually deferred for more conversation at the March 1st meeting of the Pierce County Council's Human Services Committee, which means that the actual vote by the full county council won't happen until later in March. But what was formerly the steering committee is now rolling into being the advisory board. And one of the things that we wanted to ensure is that the coalition continues to have representation on that advisory board moving forward. What we brought forward last week was the proposal that Maureen Howard retain her role as the coalition representative on the advisory board. So we're going to do a poll for that. But also due to Maureen's ongoing health issues, she suggested that we find someone to be a backup for her in the case that she can't attend the meetings. And that it was proposed that I serve that role. So this poll simply asks two questions: whether we want to see Maureen continue as our representative, and then whether I should be the backup in the case that that is needed. So you have the opportunity. There's two pieces of this question, two questions. One each has a yes, no, or abstain option. So I'm going to launch the poll. Hopefully everyone is able to see that. And we'll give this a little bit of time for folks to vote. And I really should have background music.
Cue the Jeopardy theme song.
Yeah. Although that could be stressful. So. Yeah, I got to be careful what I ask for. All right, let's give this just a few more seconds. We've had 43 folks.
You could give a brief campaign speech.
It's awkward enough to throw up a poll where I'm on it, so. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this. So let me end the poll and share the results. So Maureen will be happy to see that she had overwhelming support to continue on the advisory board, and I'll be happy to fill in the case that she's unable to. Let me take a screenshot of this so that I can retain it for us. All right. So our next item on the agenda is a breakout conversation. So we wanted to carve out a few minutes this morning for all of us to network and have a chance to meet each other and get to know each other a little better while we discuss a question about what you feel is the most pressing issue you're concerned about right now related to the work of the coalition and homelessness. So I am going to split us up into small groups, and we will spend the next 10 minutes on this question. And I'll repeat the question here in a second before I launch. So the question again is, what's the most pressing issue you're concerned about regarding homelessness right now? We will come back here at 10:45.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was a good conversation. I know it's a shorter breakout session than we usually do. But if folks did take notes and want to paste things in the chat, please do so, because we're, as Rosemary said at the beginning of the meeting, we do retain the chat and use it to help guide our work in future meetings. We're behind schedule a little bit, so I wanted to rush through the rest of our agenda. The next item that I have would be an update from the Safe Sites for All committee.
Yes, and I can tell from this meeting that the focus of Monday's meeting, and everybody is welcome to Monday's meeting, it's at noon, it's a Zoom, will be the weather. So right now we have for sure South Hill Baptist and Rise Center as two sites that are willing to accept blankets or any other donation for the bad night coming on Tuesday night. So we will probably be talking weather on and what our response will be. Typically, our response is volunteer-based. It's an informal system of outreach workers. Jeffrey Boyce, Ed, and so many of you come out and find folks who are living in the streets. So come on Monday if you have any suggestions, questions, or any way to help folks get through the night on Tuesday night.
Thank you, Jan. And you can find the link to that Safe Sites for All meeting on the Coalition's website, again at pchomeless.org. Let's shift over. Any Coalition committee updates this morning? Anything that we wanted to share today, Rosemary?
I don't think anything particular today. Thank you, though.
Okay. Okay, great. So we do have some time that we could offer folks the floor to share any announcements or updates that they think would be helpful for the larger group. We still got about 50 of us in the room. So anybody have anything that they would like to share with the group? Ed?
Good morning. We're looking at March 20th for the next homeless memorial. We've gone to doing the homeless memorials every 3 months rather than 2 months. And that will be the first one for 2022. So we'll make some more announcements when that solidifies.
Great. And we'll be sure to put that on the Coalition's webpage as well.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Rosemary?
I just wanted to announce that Teresa and I present a 1 hour plus can be another hour reflection opportunity for people to be introduced to issues regarding homelessness, set some context, especially for assisting others. And the next one of those will be March 15th. It starts at 6, and the 6 to 7 is an input time, and then 7 to 8 is more discussion and reflection time. So that's through Associated Ministries to register, and the registration is open now. I don't have the information right by me to put in the chat, but if anybody else does, that's great. Otherwise, Associated Ministries site would probably be where you could find it, or you can email me at rpowers@eou.edu.
Thank you, Rosemary. And anyone else with updates or anything to share with the larger group?
I have an ask, if that's okay.
Sure.
So what we are tasked with doing is to have Know Your Rights information sessions across the city of Tacoma. And if anyone has any groups, I'm already connected to Safe Streets. I've been talking to some of their neighborhood groups and will continue to do so. This is to share with people what their rights and their responsibilities are as tenants, because we're in the prevention business. We want to make sure that people don't get displaced and add to the already horrific regional problem that we have here. And that's what we're doing. So if anybody has any connections to the south side, east side, central, drop them in the chat. I save the chat every week and then spend the afternoon with my highlighter highlighting the contacts. So it's the student in me. It's the academic in me. I can't help it. And I see Shaquata. Hi, sweetie. Long time no see.
Hi, so Kathy, you're the new contact person
I am the new
Tacoma.
Molly. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because it's the hardest, you guys have been the hardest people for me to figure out who to contact for us to partner with on tenant education.
It's me. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm doing it.
Okay, can you send me an email with your contact information?
Can you put your email in the chat for me? Because I've lost it.
I will. Okay, thank you.
See, that's how this is supposed to work. We're all making
Right?
connections. That's awesome. All right, so we usually try to end these meetings if we can a little bit early. That's a relatively new thing. I do want to encourage, if folks have feedback on today's meeting, what you thought might have worked well, what you think we need to improve for next week, please hang out and drop that in the chat so that we can see that and follow those suggestions. And otherwise, if you would like to stay on the call, we will spend some time following this meeting planning next week. We'll take a little 5-minute break and before we do that planning meeting. But for the rest of you who need to go to other things, thanks for being here, and we look forward to seeing everybody again next Friday. Yeah, maybe with another solo from Jan on the kazoo.